so there's just so much noise out there. And really, how are you as a small business going to get your message heard through all that noise? How are you going to connect? And really, you do have to go back to kind of understanding what it is to be empathetic, I think. Understanding what it is to what people are going through that you're trying to market to, really diving deep into the emotions and taking an empathetic approach to, your customer journey, all these things, so that you can really understand and be relevant to them, because you've got about half a second to make your point these days before they move on.
So welcome back to the Business Behind Your Business podcast. And there's no shortage of tools out there to help us promote our business, create content, get in front of people. But what we're discovering is there's a lot of noise out there on the social pages, in advertising, in marketing in general. So much noise. So how do you stand out as a business? How do you make your business stand out to your customers or your potential customers when there is so much noise? So, there is a lot of noise out there. AI is enabling us to create content at a fast, rapid rate, but is it any good? And what are we missing here? So our guest today is Stephen Sakach, who is the founder of a digital marketing agency, Zero Company, but also the co-founder of AI CMO, which is the AI Chief Marketing Officer. And coming to us, we've got more than 3 decades of digital marketing experience, journalism, human consciousness studies, taking a different slant to AI to probably what you've heard of in a lot of conversations and discussions recently, looking at how we can use empathetic AI and in marketing, and something Stephen's quite passionate about, created the Bliss ethos, which is build love into scalable systems. Now, we're going to unpack that in a lot more detail, and I'll get Stephen to share the whole reason behind that, and we're coming back to that idea of purpose in our marketing, helping organizations grow with compassion. It's also the host of the Bliss Business podcast, where he turns research and insights into practical strategies and purpose-driven growth. So Stephen, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business podcast.
Excited to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you here. And there's no shortage of people telling us how to use AI for marketing. But I guess in the words of Seth Godin, who's one of the marketing pioneers, is AI has given us the capacity to create a lot of noise. But if we're missing the whole purpose of why we're trying to engage our customer, then we're failing. What is the future of marketing in terms of a human point of view?
In terms of the human point of view, he's right. There's a lot of noise out there. It's like just nonstop, right? We're the most marketed to generation, I think, ever, because it's just coming to us all the time. And I think the younger generations are maybe getting a little sick of it, maybe, able to sniff out when something's just not resonating with them really quickly. Just because they have to, right? This is just becoming a sixth sense that we're developing. Is just like, no, get this out of my way. And so there's just so much noise out there. And really, how are you as a small business going to get your message heard through all that noise? How are you going to connect? And really, you do have to go back to kind of understanding what it is to be empathetic, I think. Understanding what it is to what people are going through that you're trying to market to, really diving deep into the emotions and taking an empathetic approach to, your customer journey, all these things, so that you can really understand and be relevant to them, because you've got about half a second to make your point these days before they move on.
Yeah. So our attention spans are really shortened. We're a lot more skeptical. So the challenge, I guess, is how do we build trust and relationships with purpose in such an environment?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into that for sure. And, if you aren't about it, if you aren't about, your cause, or you're kind of sound like you're pandering to a cause or something like that, people can sniff that out pretty quickly. So really you have to get down to kind of what your higher purpose is, I think, as a business. And a lot of people, just, I got into this business to make money, that kind of thing, right? But really, what are you in service to people for? How does it impact their lives? Why is that really important? When you dig down to it deeper, how are you changing their lives for the better? And I think when you start asking these kind of questions, that's really when you start being able to articulate what your real higher purpose is as a company. And when you can do that, then that's how you're going to resonate. That's how you're going to build this connection with people. But you really do have to be authentic about it, right? You can't just be, talking the talk, because we have some very savvy people out there these days that understand when you're not walking that, that talk as well. So yeah, I think really focusing on your higher purpose will kind of get you to where you want to be in your advertising. And that's really to build this emotional connection with people. If you can do that, there's studies that show you'll have a 306% higher lifetime value than just a satisfied customer. So you're kind of elevating how people think about you, and you can build that emotional connection. And emotionally connected customers, that's kind of the holy grail of marketing. If you can get to that point with them, there's the ones who are going to tell their friends, they're the ones who are going to evangelize about your business. So there's really a lot that goes into it, but I think it does start at that higher purpose and really trying to define that, which can be a tricky thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. So it's that higher purpose, that customer engagement, that trust element that is critical to your long-term customer relationship. You're not just looking for that short-term gain, but you're looking for a long-term customer. AI seems to be in conflict to that, because we seem to be using AI. Well, maybe it's not AI itself, but maybe it's the way that we're using AI is we're using AI as a way to create bulk content, to streamline the process, to be more efficient. But as one of my favorite sayings to clients that I work with is, it doesn't matter how efficient you are, if you're shoveling garbage faster, you're still got shoveling garbage.
Right. It's gonna amplify whatever you do. So are you going to, have it amplify, just like you said, more garbage, put more garbage out there, 10x your garbage? Or so it's going to amplify, I think, what I always think of as our better angels or our inner demons. And in marketing, our inner demons may be, focusing on just the transaction. Hey, I just want to get sales, just optimize for sales. Let's put more, noise out in there and try and get the sales up, versus trying to put some good out into the world, trying to put something with a little more meaning with your content. And I think AI, regardless, it's going to amplify whichever approach you take. It just so happens, like, kind of doing the right thing ends up being the most profitable thing for you, if we can just get people to think about it that way.
Yeah. So it seems to be that people are rushing into the tool of how to deliver content, but forgetting that a first step of actually identifying, what are we trying to connect here? What's the message we're trying to present?
Like, I think most marketers, there's like that very basic kind of process we go through of figuring out what a customer journey it looks like. We kind of have a rough idea, and this is maybe really one of the only empathetic sort of endeavors we often take is focusing on that customer journey. So I think, you want to start there with some of your marketing, trying to get into the heads of people, but you also want to move beyond and figure out kind of your higher purpose and see if you can connect these two. And so really, with our AI chief marketing officer, like you mentioned, that's one of the first things we do is those two things. It's like, hey, here's a customer journey. We want to look at all the ways that they're feeling emotionally, really get deep into their empathy, into the empathy angle here. So we understand that, but we also want to understand what your purpose is, your higher purpose of your business, which you may not have ever articulated. And so we're going to walk you kind of through some processes there with that. But if you can get kind of those guide rails of understanding how my customer, is at a particular stage and what our higher purpose is, that's going to help you at least produce some content with your AI that's got a little bit more meaning than, just going to Chat GPT and typing in the same thing that the same business, an hour away is typing in, and probably getting very similar results in the process. And just putting your noise out there. But
more noise. And I guess if you're not taking that first step of identifying your customer needs, the customer journey, what that customer is truly needing, then as you mentioned, the customer, the business one hour down the road, or even 5 hours down the road, or globally these days, they're putting in the same prompts. They're going to get the same answer. And then all of that content is out there the same. Nobody's different. Everybody's producing
very similar noise and contributing to the really a problem that's going to be hard for you to kind of stand out when you're just doing the same thing everyone else is doing.
Yeah. So that whole idea of standing out, and I think I've heard this phrase a couple of times, and maybe you can expand on what it actually means. To do with marketing is the idea of a purple cow.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes, or is that, we talk about purple cow or purple goldfish or, some type of thing. One of the things we really want to do with marketing is understand what emotions resonate with people in a way. And so there's these kind of surprise and delight elements, things like that you can play into with your marketing that's going to give those kind of positive emotions with the customer experience. So really, you want to, there's like 31 emotions in the advertising process in these emotion clusters, and there's 17 on the customer experience side of things, where you're going to be either playing with some of those in one way or another, either the positive or the negative. How can we get you to play with the positive ones to really kind of stand out with your business, so that, you resonate with someone? Someone's going to remember, how you made them feel in a certain way. We want that to be, a positive feeling, something that resonates, something that's, they're going to tell their friends about, right? Something that they're going to evangelize.
And I guess that comes down to standing out, making your advertising, your marketing stand out is that key thing that you're achieving through here. It's interesting. You've taken AI on a different approach to what I'm seeing in a lot of areas at the moment. Is, yes, we know AI can produce content, it can produce content at scale, but you're using it in a way to still provide that empathetic response, that empathetic marketing, but enabling that to be done at a rapid rate with scale as well. So just explain a little bit more about how the two, which seem a bit opposites, can work together.
Yeah, it's like, how can artificial intelligence make us more human? Is that
well, yeah, essentially, yes.
Yeah, right. Which is, if you think about it, it's like, well, how can it? But really, if you think about, we're prompting AI a lot of the times. What we want AI to do is to prompt us to be better at what we're doing. So we want AI to be thinking not just about maybe, solely profits, because if AI of the future, if that's all it's doing is optimizing toward profit, it's not going to care about, employees. It's not going to compare about the environment or the community. So we wanted to really take this more conscious capitalist approach to what it's doing in its decision making, right? If we don't kind of start that in these early days, these foundational days, I think we're going to amplify a lot of problems with its use. So we really want to start asking these kind of questions and making sure it prompts us to be thinking about, our higher purpose, our community's environment, our employees and customers, all these sort of different other stakeholders in a business beyond just the owner, investor, or the shareholder, focus that a lot of businesses have. Unfortunately, people are just going to optimize toward that. We know that's going to happen, right? It's just, that's going to be the sole thing that some AI is going to be doing all of this stuff for, no matter what. It's going to, drop 100 employees here and don't care about the environment in this particular aspect of the business over here, and going to end up with all kinds of problems. And it'll be really good to get new profit, but at the same time, what are we doing to ourselves, right?
Yep. Yep. So I think really looking at it, the key difference is how we're using AI. Most people are using AI enabled to allow them to do something quickly, to do a skill that they're not used to doing. And problem with when you don't know what the skill requires, you take a lot of shortcuts or you miss a lot of key steps and you end up doing a pretty ordinary job. I always think of odd jobs around the house. Not my highlight, not my skill set.
Crushed it on the odd jobs this weekend. I did.
I crushed something. It wasn't what I was supposed to. So.
And I had AI with me the whole time when I'm like, hey, I'm at the store. If I buy this, will this work for this project? And it was like, actually, no, it's more like you need this one. Okay, how about this one? Yes, that's perfect. You'll do a great job. And so, we have this sort of relationship, I think, with AI where we can really, if we're using it in that way, we can kind of have a jazz session, even on those home, those projects around the home.
So the way you've just described it is using, I guess, the capabilities of what AI is really enabling us to do, but helping us to actually become better humans.
Yeah.
In terms of what we do and why we do it.
Yeah. How many different ways can we level up using it? Right. Obviously, I leveled up my home repair skills and things like that. But can you level me up as just a human being to help me be kinder, to be more generous, to be more compassionate, empathetic? Yes, I think it'll be really, really good at that. At the same time, it'll probably also be really, really good at making, people a little bit more narcissistic or egoic, if it's like it's your little sycophant in your ear and telling you everything you're doing is great. Like I said, it's going to amplify our better angels or our inner demons, depending on how we're using it.
And I think going back to one of our earlier points that we were discussing, there's so much noise out there and people are becoming, I guess, very cynical about a lot of the content that's being produced, and the narcissists and the ones that want to self-promote creating a lot of that content, which we're just going to flick past or swipe past. But we're going to look out for that thing that stands out, that actually talks to us as humans.
Let's scale what matters, right? If we're going to scale something, let's scale what matters. I mean, not just what performs, but, let's scale empathy, let's scale purpose, let's scale truth, all these things that we can scale if we want to. So let's have those conversations. Let's make sure that's the kind of way we're going to be using AI.
And I guess look, AI is not necessarily a new thing now. It's still evolving, and I know a lot of people in the marketing space have looked at AI as their savior in that terms of they've got to use it, otherwise their industry's at risk. I don't know that that's the case, because with AI in a lot of industries, if it's used badly, it amplifies the need of why you need to work with a professional. You've actually taken a completely different approach to it, and you're helping organizations grow. And I think one of those key things is going back to that purpose. So, can you share some of the experiences or the conversations, perhaps maybe what's come through in some of the podcasts or the Bliss podcast, where you're talking about building love into scalable systems? Are there some practical examples that maybe we could sort of say, well, hang on, that actually is my situation as well?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of us different ways where we talk about the importance of purpose, I think, in work, not just in the marketing side of things. So on the podcast, a lot of times we're just talking about, your personal growth and the purpose and how that energizes your employees when you're all behind a mission. Right now, there's it's like 21% of the world's workforce is engaged. That means 4 out of 5 are not engaged. We're going to work and we're just opening up the vein, and we can't wait to get through the day because we find the work just not fulfilling and kind of meaningless in a lot of ways. And so this is a huge problem, and it's only gotten worse the past few years. So one of the things about, if you're a marketer and you're able to tell a story about your company and your company's higher purpose, this is really something that can engage your whole staff and your employees and not just your customers. But this is putting good into the world so that someone comes to work and they're thinking, oh, I'm actually doing this, my 40 hours a week, and versus, what I thought was just a grind all the time. But if I thought about it, just those little twists in how I viewed my same work, and see the bigger picture of it, you're going to see a lot of good happen within your business. And really, when you start working on the inside of your business, it's going to spread inside out, is what we see a lot of the times. And with the marketing, you've got this real chance to make a difference, because there's a lot of companies out there spending millions and producing billions and billions of ad impressions. And if you're just putting garbage out there, it's kind of a wasted opportunity. I think about like Dove. There's this, back in the day when Dove was first launched, it did a really good job about talking about the features and benefits, and this is what made the brand. And Ogilvy kind of is one of his, the famous case studies is Dove. But then, decade after decade, kind of doing that same message. When it got down to it, like in the 90s, it was like kind of tired and played out. And then it switched to this message of what's real beauty look like. And so Dove changed its whole brand around Dove Real Beauty, and they kind of realized that only 2% of women in the world saw themselves as beautiful. And so they took this on as, sort of this purpose, this higher purpose. And now all of their advertising relates to that in some way. And this resonates really deeply with a lot of people. Even, me as a father of a daughter, it's hard not to get emotional on some of these stories, because it's just connecting with us. At the same time, they're making $1.5 billion more dollars from it. But at the same time, they have put billions and billions and billions of ad impressions out to the world that had meaning and purpose and made the world a better place. And so there's a lot we can do with that when we think in terms of how can I scale love in what I'm doing. Turns out, like I said, a lot of times that can also be the profitable thing, not just the right thing to do.
Yeah. So that's a great example. And look, certainly I'm aware of that. I've seen that as well. Have a teenage daughter as well, so very aware of the concepts that come through. And I guess the transfer of the focus from, like you said, the 80s and 90s, where it was all about image and do this to look better, rather than you are already beautiful. So they've tapped into that, I guess, that human purpose, that underlying need, and really makes a difference. So as you were sort of talking, I was thinking of some really bad marketing campaigns that are on mainstream media at the moment in Australia, and the backlash, because they've completely disengaged with their customers, has been quite, I guess, I wouldn't say surprising, but a bit scary, really. So.
Yeah, I think consciousness is evolving. You're right. It's always evolving, and business is going to kind of be there where consciousness is at. But right now there's it's going from this sort of traditional business environment to more of this sort of postmodern, taking on multiple perspectives, conscious capitalist approach in what we're doing. And if you're not speaking that language, the younger generation is, and they're, going to be turned off by, if you're doing business as usual, for sure.
Yeah. So, Stephen, so you've developed AI CMO, which is AI Chief Marketing Officer, but to try and build scale to your marketing with that human-centric approach. How would our listeners get involved? How would they actually engage you with this service?
Yeah, for sure. You could go to aicmo.io, and there's a free trial on there, and test it out. Go in there. It'll ask you it'll know a lot about your business in a really short time. It's a little bit scary these days, just how much it knows. But it'll create like a marketing plan for you. It'll, if you go through the purpose process that we have in there, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions about your business, maybe that you haven't asked yourself before. And then it's going to come up with a variety of different purpose statements and see if one of those resonates with you. It doesn't have to be if it's not the most eloquent, but if the purpose resonates with you, that'll be one of the guide rails for you going forward. with the AI Chief Marketing Officer platform, because it'll now come up with creative ideas around this higher purpose, which does a really good job. And we've done 100 different, businesses every week, running through it and coming up with different scenarios. So any kind of business is fascinating to me, just seeing how well it can navigate that. So definitely go check out AICMO.io.
Fantastic. And of course, if you want probably more of the full-on service, you could also check out zerocompany.com, which Stephen's still involved with, which is a full digital marketing agency.
Yep. Yes, correct.
Absolutely. So look, I've enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking to a real person about AI, not talking to AI about what people should look like, but enjoyed hearing more about what's really the underlying purpose of what we should be doing and what we should connect with our marketing. And I think the challenge is, how do we stand out to connect to our customer? And we can't do that purely in an AI environment. We can't lose touch of who we are as people and that real purpose under there. So it's been great to talk with Stephen today, to hear I guess really the key reasons why we need to connect with that human-centric approach, that purpose, and really identify our customers and who they are, rather than just rushing in and using the latest and greatest AI tools to create noise or garbage.
Don't do that. Don't throw it. I mean, it's a good opportunity. If you're going to amplify our message, make sure you're doing something, amplifying it with meaning. This is like we mentioned early on, we have that bliss philosophy of build love into scalable systems. So we want you to scale love is what we want to do. So in your business, if there is some kind of system or something like that where you can make a change to for the better, instead of it being a random act of kindness that happens in your business, systemize that, right? Make a systemized acts of kindness from your business. And this is really kind of our bliss methodology, is just keep asking yourself that question over and over. How can I build love into what I'm doing? How can I make a system that'll leave a legacy when you're gone? Because it'll still be running when you're there, versus, if you're the one who's just always lighting up the room, as soon as you're gone, that love goes with you. So for sure, keep asking yourself how you can build love into what you're doing, and let's scale that.
That's a great way to end our conversation today. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us on the business behind your business and sharing with us the great way that we could use AI in a human-centric way to amplify our message.
Thanks, Paul.